Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Alejandro Iñárritu's The Revenant in 2015. And The Revenant is an interesting film. It won 3 Oscars at the time, and it is acclaimed and stuff. But there are those that say it's overlong, boring, pretentious maybe, just overrated in general. I don't feel that, and I've seen it 3 times now, and I think The Revenant is a stunning film. Got it here on Blu-ray, and it's quite notable for it's the first film that Leonardo DiCaprio won an Oscar for his acting. Long deserved was that. He'd been nominated. He's been nominated now 6 times, I think. And there's a couple of occasions where I definitely think he should have won. His best roles are still in Django for me and Wolf of Wall Street, but in The Revenant, he gives an absolutely stunning performance. And the film itself is stunning. Alejandro was also, the year before, would do Birdman, which I still think is his best film, and I'll review that at some point. Both are great films, and the fact that he was able to make these a year apart, it's quite something. But he won the Oscar for Best Director as well, and obviously Emmanuel Lubezki would win Best Cinematography. And he's an absolutely stunning cinematographer. And in this film as well, they used, I'm thinking it's used completely natural light, and to make this authenticity. It's set in 1823. This film, so they wanted to kind of recreate that, and as well, most of it was on location, nature and everything. And they wanted to use natural light, and they pulled it off because it looks absolutely stunning, this film. And it's very natural and gets you into that experience more in a natural way. But this film really it's pretty simple in terms of plot. There's this frontiersman. It follows Leonardo. He's the main character, and they're just kind of trekking, looking for stuff, pelts and everything there, and just kind of uncharted territory. And there's obviously obstacles in the film, like these tribes, of course, and it explores that, and man versus nature and stuff, in a really wonderful way. But it's not quite a linear narrative. It's quite, it's quite different, especially for modern standards. I suppose maybe that's one of the reasons why people were put off of it. But the basic story is when they're looking and stuff early on. Leonardo's, he's attacked by this bear, and of course that's a famous. There's a famous scene where he gets attacked by the bear, and that was absolutely stunning. It's so intense, and you actually thought it actually looked like he was getting mauled to death, and that happens very early on in the film, and then a couple of things happen, which I won't really ruin. But then it kind of turns into this revenge story, and Tom Hardy is he plays John Fitzgerald, and he's the one who Leonardo's trying to get revenge on for something he's done, early on in the film, which I won't ruin, of course. And it's basically the rest of the film is that Leonardo's struggling with his wounds and stuff, and his loss, and. Just trying to get revenge on Tom Hardy's character, but as well, also trying to find peace within himself, I think. And the themes, in this film: man versus nature, of course, revenge, and just finding oneself, at peace and stuff. The way that works with the nature throughout the film is wonderful. But the opening, half an hour, 45 minutes. After that, Leonardo DiCaprio can't really talk for the most part of the film because of his injuries, and that kind of turns the film into this. That's when the film, I suppose, starts to turn into a different one, because he's using these gestures and this more of a physical performance, and he doesn't really have much dialogue, of course, throughout the rest of the film. But Leonardo DiCaprio absolutely masters acting in this film, and the way he's able to act like this without really any talking, any dialogue, it's something else. He's masterful in this film. And you know, all the rest of the supporting cast as well. You know, Tom Hardy, animalistic as well in this film. He's a real, you know, animal, and probably one of his better performances. You know, not his top three or anything, I don't think, but you know, he's a great actor, of course. He's never really, well, aside from maybe one film I've seen, been disappointing in a role. He always brings something for the most part, and yeah, he's a great actor. And among my favourite modern actors actually. You've also got Forrest Goodluck, who plays Hawk. He plays the son of Leonardo, and then you've got Will Poulter. You know, he's quite a prominent character in the film. And you've also got the captain in the film. You know, he's played by Domhnall Gleeson, Brendan Gleeson's son, if you didn't know. And he's a great character as well. You know, he's the one of reason, and you know, he kind of tries to, you know, keep everything at bay when he's in the film anyway. And yeah, once Leonardo's injured, basically, you know, a couple of the men volunteer to stay behind and kind of look after him, make sure he gets back and survives and stuff. And that's when things, yeah, obviously start to escalate. And for the most of the film, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio is kind of on his own, certainly in the middle parts, and he's just kind of trying for revenge, as I say. And yeah, it's kind of this adventure film, but also, you know, a survival film. And you know, of course, it's notable for its cinematography, which is stunning. The use of natural light, and just the way that the camera moves, and the way that, you know, the landscapes and everything are not just beautiful, but they're, you know, they're overwhelming, and it's that theme of, you know, nature, the harshness and the beauty of nature. I think that's captured perfectly throughout the entire film. This is one of the most wonderfully shot films in recent years, I would say, and yeah, the way that, you know, as I say, the nature is captured, and as well, Leonardo, especially his interaction with nature and stuff, and to try and survive and stuff, it's really, really involving. Especially, you know, there's a scene, you know, in the middle of the film where he's trying to seal up one of his wounds. And he kind of, yeah, he uses this thing, and it's just the way that it involves you in him, you know, trying to survive and stuff, but using, you know, nature, and, you know, as an advantage, but also, you know, as well, straight after that, you know, there's a bit where, you know, nature, you know, the harshness of nature and how it can be dangerous and stuff, and that the way that that's played throughout the entire film is perfect. And of course, you've got these tribes that are also, you know, involved, which I won't go into too much, but they're all really acted really well. You know, especially the leader of one of the tribes, and they're kind of, that adds a lot of the tension as well throughout a lot of the film. You know, the bits where they're kind of, they notice DiCaprio's character in the river, especially. That's a standout scene. That you know, it's so tense and involving. And yeah, it's just a survival film, really, and a revenge film. After that, as I say, first act, but then as well, it changes again in the final act a little bit, and you know, some of the other characters come back into it, and the way it comes together is really, really moving and epic as well. And of course, you can't really not mention the opening battle sequence. You know, the opening shot as well. It's really clever. It kind of just slowly shows you the stream, and it's just slowly gliding across, and it kind of, you know, natural, and the calmness you get of the river and stuff, and then, you know, we slowly see these characters coming in, you know, to the frame with guns. Straight away you see the guns, and that, I think that's meant to signify, you know, man, you know, destroying nature in a way, and being, you know, yeah, a hindrance and stuff, and the way that they come into frame really signifies that. And then the opening battle sequence, stunning, one of the most you know, wonderfully shot and put together action scenes, you know, in recent years, for sure. And it's just, you know, the long takes and everything to increase the tension, maintain that, and then, you know, all the different the elements that are involved in the different shifts of power and stuff, and, you know, how much you feel like they're actually going, you know, what's at stake, and how much you know, a lot of them come close to death, and, you know, some of course die, but that scene was absolutely stunning. The way that it was directed was masterful, and of course, there's another kind of fight scene one-on-one, towards the end of the film, and that's just, in its own right, it's just as stunning, between two characters, which I won't ruin. But yeah, every act of this film is really something. I do think there are some flaws to this film. While the middle of the film is really great, and it's nice that Leonardo's on his own and stuff. I think that's when some of the flaws happen. It's a bit flat at times. At times, in terms of drama, and maybe it could have been edited a bit more down. I think some of the middle part lets it down, and there is a couple of weird scenes. Especially there's this guy that Leonardo meets, this kind of lone guy, and he's a really warm character and everything, and he adds a lot to the film. But there's a scene where he's kind of poking his tongue out, trying to collect water. I know what he's trying to do, but it was done in a weird way that didn't fit the tone, and it went on for a bit too long. And as well, when Tom Hardy and that wasn't on the screen and stuff, and there wasn't as much drama and stuff, it felt slightly flat. I think it could have been done a bit better. And there was one or two, as I say, pretentious moments, I would say, just weird things that just didn't fit the tone. There's also a bit where his wife was floating and stuff. Just in context of what was going on, it didn't quite fit. I know this is meant to be like a spiritual experience, but not quite pulled off as well as it could have been. And as I say, that middle, some of that middle act of the film is a bit flat. But it picks up massively again, right, in the final act, and that's probably the best parts of the film. And the way it comes together at the end, is really something. How satisfying it is, also a bittersweet ending, and the way just he finds peace at the end. And yeah, a lot of it's left. It's not really explained too much, but I kind of understood it all, and how I interpreted it. It's probably different to other people, but it ends on a an ambiguous note, but you could say. But yeah, no, it culminates wonderfully, and it's definitely satisfying. A satisfying end to this film, because this journey that Leonardo's gone through, and his character growth and stuff, and how much he's had to survive. On his own for most of the film. It's definitely a great ending, and really good way to wrap things up. Everything from the performances to the cinematography, which is absolutely stunning. The use of music as well. The music in this film is very, very good. Very atmospheric, and just quite beautiful as well. But at times overwhelming. And it ties in perfectly with their landscape shots, and stuff, and how, the nature and everything can be overwhelming, and quite harsh. And the soundtrack, it has all these different things in it, to portray different emotions, and obviously the beauty of it as well. It's a beautiful piece, and the way it's used throughout the film is really wonderful. As I say, most things in this film are absolutely stunning. It does take a dip, as I say, in that middle act. But the beginning and the final act are absolutely stunning, nearly flawless. And it doesn't quite reach that masterful level throughout, but it is a great film. It's a stunning film, and definitely worthy of the awards that it got. And I'm glad Leonardo won for best actor and stuff. And it's while it won Best Director, I was happy with that. There are probably some better films that year that came out. I think Mad Max is better. Force Awakens, stuff like that. I've not seen The Martian or Bridge of Spies or anything like that, but it's still it's a worthy film to win Best Director, and certainly cinematography. You can't really I'd probably still say Mad Max has better cinematography. Both are stunning, and it's fine. I'm glad it went to this film. But yeah, as I say, it does have some flaws, but it's still a great film, and a great flawed film. I'll give it a 95%, and I think that's a fair score. While it is pretty much throughout the first and third act pretty flawless. You're always as well aware through this film the motivations of the characters, especially Leonardo DiCaprio's character, and you know, it's very personal. You know, this is kind of an epic, in a sense, you know, a western, and it does have this really personal undercurrent and this drive to the film. So that, you know, is such is real praise for that. And you're always kind of aware of that. It slightly peters out in the middle act though, even some of that drive. But yeah, if it, you know, the first and the final act, you know, absolutely flawless, really. I think 95's, you know, that score that I think is accurate for me, just because of some of that middle, as I say. And you know, at times the script could be improved a little bit. It's a bit basic and a bit on the nose at times, and not, you know, some of the you know, the side characters, while some of them are great, they're not all as good as they could be, and you know, some of them are a bit underdeveloped. And you know, not all the performances are perfect, but most of the ones that count are great and are really stunning. Especially, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hardy, and then, you know, the dynamics and everything between them characters throughout the film is something. And really, yeah, that's one of the reasons why the middle is the weakest as well, because it's not got that, you know, that dynamic feel, the relationship between Tom Hardy and Leonardo, and you know, that tension really with the main plot. But yeah, no, it's a stunning film. You know, non-linear film that really achieved something. And apart from that flawed, you know, middle, you know, yeah, it's a really stunning film. And you know, that middle is still great. Just not quite as good as the rest of the film. And although I really liked it, of course, the first time, it grew on me definitely. And yeah, it's a stunning film. So The Revenant, 95, and yeah, thanks for watching my review, and yeah, this will be the last review I do this week, but thanks for watching, and I'll be up with more reviews next week. Thanks.